self-awareness is huge. I think that season brought it up to me and really just put it in my face of just like, hey, yeah, this is a crappy situation, Adam, but you're not totally innocent. Like how you've ran for the last decade is caught up with you. And what's it like to be on the other side of you?
Hey everybody, welcome to the 10,000 Minute Podcast. My name is Tim Timmons.
I'm Chris.
Chris Cleveland. We've got Moy Donise, and that's M-O-I.
And your favorite. Let's face it.
My favorite.
My
I was
mom's.
fishing for a compliment, but thanks, guys.
Let's be honest. What would this podcast be without you?
It's
not on the air. That's for sure.
Okay.
It's true.
Did they say that? On the air? How old
We
am
need
I?
a red light on air. Yeah.
Yeah, on our Friday things that Moy and I have been doing these Friday,
Yeah, I've seen
hangouts.
them. I just don't come.
No, it's okay. You're doing great.
Okay.
But everybody's basically like, yeah, Tim, that's great. Thanks for saying that. But why don't you, Moy, what else do you have
Do
to
you have
say?
some
Mo have
actually
to
insight
say?
for
Yeah.
us?
Sweet Mo.
What does Mo have
M-O-E.
to say?
What?
Okay, so speaking of Moy,
That's my Siri.
Yeah, well, on Siri, if you say, hey, call Moy, it'll say, you mean moi?
Very
Yeah.
fancy.
This week, we've got a guy named Adam Weber from the Sioux Falls,
Mm-hmm.
who is very good looking. I mean, I'm going to put that out there.
Right.
Much because it's like looking in a mirror for me.
It really was, guys. It was kind of crazy.
So he's bald, like hot, which is a synonymous. Those are the same words.
So much to unpack. Yes.
Yeah.
So much to unpack.
It's great.
But he did, you guys, if you are wanting to be more like Jesus, he does have a great recommendation.
Skull blade.
Well,
Again, it's
Or what
not
was
called the Skull Blade, guys. But if you watch the show today, you will know the true name of this product.
gosh, I'm
Not the
I'm
Skull
thinking
I'm
Blade.
about
getting
it.
paid for this.
No. We
But
need
I do
to.
know
The
what your
opposite.
Father's Day present's going to be.
Really?
Too good.
Anywho, so we do talk about that. No, we get into some really great stuff. We talk about being on autopilot. What's that look like in relationships?
Yep, what it does to our soul, pulls us out from being present with people, what it looks like to love people well.
Ooh, so if you have trouble with being intentional with people, this is a great episode. And what I thought was fascinating was that he is actually comes natural to him.
Right.
Like even just people, and he loves people, and he's fun. But even he was having trouble with that. So I was thinking this is good for anybody who's trying to figure out how do I be more intentional just with humans. Hey, thank you for you guys who are supporting 10,000 Minutes. You can always do that. Go to 10,000minutes.com. Thank you so much just for giving every month. It helps us do what we're doing. Thank you. Hopefully it's encouraging to your soul. That's one thing. Also, if you want to
Subscribe. Follow. Share. What else? Tic Tac? I don't know.
Join our
Tic-tac this thing.
Instagram lives. Come
Yeah,
through,
on
please.
Fridays. we want to hear more from you because it's really helpful for us to know what you're dealing with, what you're going through, and just to know you. So, anyways, without further ado, gosh, where does that come
Who
from?
knows? It's like moi. It's French.
Yes, I am French. That's where my name comes from. Or just my name being
French
mispronounced
Bulgarian.
1,000 times.
French Bulgarian. Okay. Anyways, you guys enjoy this next episode with Adam Weber. Okay, everybody, welcome to the 10,000 Minute Podcast. My name's Tim Timmons. I've got Chris Cleveland.
Yo.
Hot updo today.
Oh, it's always up.
Yeah, it's a hot updo.
It's
Wow.
either this or your buzz. That's
Well,
it.
You know, I have been noticing a lot of guys lately coming to me saying, hey, I came your way. I haven't gone all the way yet. They're just using
Came
this.
your
They're like
way,
a 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah, they're just doing the one, and they're nervous to go all the way. And Adam, we'll get to you in a second because I can tell that I don't know if you're
He's
the same
not
guy.
afraid, baby.
Are you get afraid?
A bold one.
Amoy Donise, to my right.
Yeah, I am not bald.
No,
but
you're
yes.
not.
And my hair is not up.
Luscious locks.
Thank you, guys.
Luscious.
It's actually extra frizzy, but I do appreciate you seeing me.
Yeah, that was my name in high school.
And my
Was it?
potential.
Yeah, Luscious Locks.
Seems right.
Oh, I thought it was frizzy. Okay.
Okay. I actually did have long hair in high school.
How long?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Maybe you guys should stop giving me crap.
Wow. We're just trying to invest in you,
I'm
Tim.
here for you, man.
I had luscious locks. They all called me Old Luscious Locks Timmons. No, no.
OLLT. Nice.
We have a guest today.
Yeah, we have a guest in front of us.
Speaking of luscious locks, we've got Adam Weber, everybody.
Woo.
Yes.
Excited to be here. So excited to be
The
here.
fans went wild.
Yeah.
And Adam, you've got luscious locks as well.
I do. I have no luscious locks up there. I've been telling every balding man I know.
Yes.
I just recently got a thing called the skull shaver
Whoa.
that takes it down to like
Is it
basically
in the
nothing there.
shower? Is it the thing that you
Yeah, you can use it in the shower. I don't, but
Okay.
I've normally for like the last 10 years I've just used the clippers, which gets it pretty low.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
one.
Then I saw I was basically not even no guard, just take it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this skull shaver, I should get income from this.
was
but
this like a
I've
social
gotten
media
this-
ad?
it's-
Did they get you or
That's
did you?
great call.
No, a buddy of mine had it. He was like, "Look at this thing." And I had never seen anything like it. So I searched and got one myself and
Nice.
I love it. So and
it's an actual razor.
it's like a electric razor that you usually use on your face, but specifically designed for the top of your head.
So I'm
Cool.
gonna
I think I've seen this, and we just need to reach out for a little sponsorship.
Just
in
a little
case.
bit.
duh.
There we go.
Subtle
But does it go
product
all the way down to
placement.
the skin, or do you still have a little stubble?
It goes all the way
Okay.
down to the skin.
Okay.
Like it is definitely like close friends of like, have you started like bicking the top
Yeah.
of your head? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have.
Wow.
I don't
Okay, so I
want
need to point
shave
people
anything
towards
more.
this
All you
because
fellas, just check the show notes. You know?
yeah, what's it called? The skull blade?
Just got the
skull shaver.
blade?
Skull
That's
shaver.
terrifying.
Skull blade. That's what we're gonna come up with.
That was my nickname in high school.
Skull blade.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just reaching, guys. Okay.
Well, everybody, if you're listening and not watching this, Adam and I could be brothers from another mother. I
Possibly.
love
Or the
that
same
phrase.
mother.
You know,
Or the same mother.
yeah, could
Yeah.
be the same.
Yeah, and let's just keep it right
Cousins.
there.
Could just be cousins.
Distant,
Different
bald
dimension.
cousins.
Fine.
Everybody, Adam is a dancer, and we'd love for you to talk just about some of your newest moves.
Oh my gosh.
He's gone viral on TikTok. That's why we have him
No,
here.
no.
Oh, that's not
Furthest
you?
thing from a dancer. I have no
That's not
dance
you.
moves whatsoever.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I don't know what we're going to talk about today.
It's
This
the
is
other Adam Weber.
Oh, dang
no.
J/K. Adam, I've just seen you online on the interwebs, on the Instagrams, and I just appreciate the things that you say. And I just reached out going, dude, come on and hang out with us for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I've been following you for a while myself, and yeah, just have a mutual appreciation. I got next to nothing figured out in life, and yeah, I've been here. I'm a long time born and raised South Dakotan, was away for just a few years when I got my master's. But yep, I'm a pastor. As I told the guy who was trying to sell me a kid's book at 10 o'clock last night in front of my house, I'm the last guy who ever thought I'd be a pastor. But yeah, just here in Sioux Falls. I'm a huge fan of Sioux Falls. Yeah, got next to nothing figured out, as I said.
I love that. Okay, so why did you never think you were going to be a pastor, and what does that mean today? Like, how does that make you feel today doing this?
So the guy, his 19-year-old fella, I'm the last person who ever thought they'd be a Christian to start with.
Okay.
I grew up in the church, Lutheran, all my extended family's Catholic. And my earliest memories of life, not just church, are me hating church and trying to fake illness as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, trying to not go to church.
Strong.
So had definitely a change, a heart change later on in high school. And then still, I just never saw it as how I'm kind of an entrepreneur heart. I'm just fascinated by business in general. And so I got my business marketing degree in college, and I always thought I'd do some just different things, whether it's generosity or just looking to bless people through a business. I'm like, I always thought it'd be so cool just to have a place where it'd be like just different, uniquely run business. And then the summer before my senior year of college, through the craziest of circumstances, I filled in for a pastor. I was 21 years old and filled in for a pastor against my will. And within the first week, there was 3 ladies in that church that had terminal cancer. And I've always been a person who I just don't like surface conversation. I really like hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you say it sucks right now.
Yeah.
Like I've just always, when you got terminal cancer, the fluff leaves your vocabulary. I mean, you just say exactly what you feel, whether you're scared or angry or whatever. And I just that first week meeting those 3 different ladies who are my mom's age or older, I'm like, man, this is such a legit thing that you would care to even meet and hang out with me with such a joy. And so I knew I was supposed to be a pastor, honestly, that first week. But even now, I've been a pastor for coming up on 16 years, and I still wrestle with it of just like, I still don't feel like a pastor. I'm such a work in progress in every way. Like even just last night, I'm just like, man, you still are broke. Like you're just broken. And I just seeing my own shortcomings just grieves me. Just seeing that the parts of me that don't look much like Jesus. And so, it's been a journey, but I continue to be amazed that God can use anybody. And so that is me. If anybody needs to be encouraged, just look no further than this guy, because I got nothing figured out. So
totally. And that's what we wanted to talk to you about. A lot of your people have been calling us having.
Oh boy, here we go.
With a lot of things to say about you.
Season 2 is rough, man.
So Betty from Sioux Falls said Adam is a total Okay, so why do you have the shirt "kind" on? And I'm curious about how we love people well. That's kind of what I wanted to lean into you about, because you in your book, Love Has a Name. And the stuff that you talk about, there's a lot about loving people well. And even on your bio, you talk about loving people well. And so I see kind right there. So I'm just curious, like, what is this? What does this look like? Why are we not kind? And what's it look like to be kind?
Oof, man. So the shirt is some random thing I did a few years back to raise money for a school in Haiti. So that's where the shirt came from.
Strong.
But no, loving people well. So the book, when I wrote it, I was coming out of the hardest season of my life. I went through a hard situation here at the church, leadership wise. It's always come naturally for me to care for people, like genuinely. The kid last night, he literally, it's 9:30 at night, might have even been later. I'm talking with my neighbor, and this kid stops at the end of my sidewalk. Hey, I want to talk with you. And my neighbor walked away because he didn't want to talk with this guy.
Perfect.
So he's like, have fun with that.
Oh,
and
my
I'm
gosh.
like, dude, come on up here.
Yeah.
And he's like, like he's almost shocked that I want to talk with him first.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, grab a seat. And at first he didn't even grab a seat because I think he was like, this is not how this works.
And was he selling books? Is that what he was doing?
He was selling books. And so I just want to know his story. I'm like, how old are you? And what are you doing selling books at it's dark out?
Right.
And so I've always been naturally just curious from people. And I've naturally had a heart for the person who doesn't fit in. I don't know if this is weird to share, but I was not in elementary school, it was really, really hard for me. Was picked on, all this kind of thing. And so I've always had a heart for that kid who didn't fit in. And so it's come naturally for me. But a few years back, went through this horrible situation. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to love anybody, nobody. I wanted to love my wife, my kids, a few close friends, and that's it. I mean, I didn't want to be a pastor. I was so fried from people and hurt, and I just didn't want to love anybody. And it's like, well, Adam, you're following me, and I'm telling you need to love everybody. And so it's like, what does that look like? For the first time in my life, I don't want to love anybody. And so I had to really figure it out, like see what that looks like. And so I've been on this journey since then of, okay, how do I love people? And I just don't want to. And for me, how do you love people well? I think it's just noticing people, you know? The kid last night, he told me his name 17 different times. I legitimately asked him 5 times at least, and I still couldn't figure it out. Yeah. But I think he was shocked that I just cared about him.
That you were trying.
I offered him a bottle of water. I started asking him about his family. I asked him about, and you could just tell he got up and he's like, man, thank you so much for this. And I think just noticing him. And also, but I don't always do it well. There, something I grieve. A couple of months ago, we were purchasing something with a company, and as a church, we've been working on this purchase or whatever, and we're at this business, and the person's like, "Oh, this is actually our CEO. Like, you should meet him."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, he's busy. This is a big company.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey man, nice to meet you. And he's like, thanks so much for doing business. I'm like, no, that's no problem. And a part of me was like, you should ask him how he's doing. But I was like, he's busy. Like, he doesn't need this Yahoo asking about like how he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's a public thing, so I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't. Literally 3 nights later, I got a text message from the staff person that was with me. Hey, just wanted to let you know that person took their life.
Oh my gosh.
The guy that you met.
Right.
And I'm like, what? And I was like, are you sure it was that? And he's, yeah, like the person that we got introduced to. And it just broke my heart, you know? And so whether it's a neighbor kid dropping his bike off in front of him, coming to my house, or this guy, like there's something powerful about being like just seen.
Yeah.
And I think the person, the teenage kid, as much as the CEO, is just longing to be seen.
Wow.
You know, the kid just did not feel like he's a nuisance, but you know, the CEO, like, no, I don't want anything from you. Like, I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for a hookup with some connection that you got. Like, I just want to get to know you.
Yes.
Like, how are you doing?
Yes.
And so I think when you just see somebody, there's just like, it makes that person feel loved. I don't want to get all pastorish here. I think it's one of the Johns. So John's writing these letters, and he says, when we love one another, his love is made perfect within us. And I it's so cool. So I've been on this journey of like trying to intentionally love people and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know what it is, but it almost is addicting. It's like contagious. Like, something I've realized is when I'm restless, hey, Adam, why don't you go serve somebody, love somebody? Because for some reason, when you do that, like, it gets you out of yourself. And for some reason, you just feel at peace, or you feel like a sense of love. And so I was thinking about those words from John, and I've always thought about it, like, when we love somebody, they see the perfect love of God inside of us, which is so rad. You know, like that's legit. But I just had this moment where I was like, no, but it applies to you too, Adam. Like, when you love somebody else, my love inside you is made perfect. And that's why it feels so good when you're loving somebody with no strings attached, because you're never closer to my heart than when you're doing that. Whether it's the CEO who's thinking about killing himself, or it's this kid. And so I'm all pastorish here, but there's something about it that I'm like, man, like, when I do that, when I live that way, there's something inside of my soul that it's like, I feel more human right now than I have all week. And,
I think that is, I mean, instead of being pastorish, I mean, that is the most human of humans right there. You said it so well at the end. I mean, that is what it means to actually probably be human. If it's Genesis 1 and 2, and that was the intent of just who we were and our identities and loving each other well. Gosh, it's so human. I love it.
Well, and it's, and yet, like, you know, like just in our divided world, the next news story that comes out and everybody's all over the place. Like, I even find myself angry, but what I don't find myself angry is when I'm sitting down face to face with someone that I disagree with and actually having conversations, then I'm not angry. Yeah. And so there's something about like just getting face to face with people and seeing them and hearing their story, even if they disagree with you, that's just like, yeah, this feels right. Like, this is how it should be. And so I again, like, genuinely, whenever I'm restless or anxious, which happens often, one of my first things is like, how can I go out of my way to love somebody today? And when I do that, when I kind of have that approach to a day, it turns into the raddest adventure ever. Yeah. It's like, I did not expect to meet this person and to be here at this place. So,
well, I love, do you have a thought?
Yeah, you mentioned about a season where you felt burnt out and
didn't want to love people.
And I'm curious, what holds people back? Is it the burnout of loving in this way, or is it just other factors? Is it margin? Is it fear? What exactly holds us back from having almost the energy and the curiosity to be that awake and aware every day to love people?
That's good. I think there's maybe two different sides to that. So the season a few years ago was really feeling hurt. And so I think what kept, like, if you're really hurt or jaded, I think what kept me from wanting to love people was almost this screw you mentality inside me. Of like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not letting myself be hurt again. Like, you're not going to hurt me again. Like, kind of like these walls again, for me, I've never really had those walls because it's just naturally, of course I'm going to. So I think for me in that season, I just didn't want to trust anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't trust anybody, and except a few close friends, my wife, kids, Jesus, like that's it. So I that's what kept me. And I think for that person, what I would say is this doesn't lead to a good place. Like for you, it just leads to a really jaded, bitter, miserable existence. I can remember being in high school or even in college. And I used to just think, again, I'm so like, joy comes naturally for me. I used to think, at what point do you become a jaded old 60-year-old man? Like, how do you get to be that angry? Like, really? Like, you're that angry? Like, I just couldn't understand how a person could be angry. Now I ask the exact same question, but the opposite. How do you get to be 60 years old and still assume the best about people? And still genuinely want to care for people.
Yeah.
Because that feels impossible.
Yeah.
You know, it's the exact thing, but totally opposite. I'm like, how do you do that? So that's for that kind of that situation of the hurt person. For me, and it's really probably my only challenge now is for that person who's burnt out or like me, I try to do way too much. And so I'll slam my schedule. Like, but even last night, my wife said, she's like, what are you doing tomorrow? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, have you seen your schedule? And so it's easy for me to overload myself.
Yeah.
And when I overload myself, people quickly become objects, annoyances, hindrances, nuisances. I mean, it's like all the negative things. Like, you are just like something to bother me, take from me, whatever for me. Doesn't sound like Jesus, first off. And secondly, again, doesn't sound like a very good way to live.
Yeah.
And when I get in that mode, I've always said this. I feel like when I do this for a long amount of times, I'll tell my wife, I feel like a robot without a soul.
Right.
It's just like, I feel like a machine right now. And anytime we feel like machines and robots without a soul, we start treating other people like machines and robots without a soul. And that doesn't lead to a good place.
Ooh, did you hear that? I love that. That's so good. Have you guys ever felt like someone treated you like a robot or a machine? All right, on the other side of that, how many times have we treated other people like robots or overlooked them to do whatever things we need to get done or even to do God's work? And then lastly, how often do we treat ourselves and our very lives like we are machines? Just look at your schedule. Let's just check in for a moment. Am I making time to see people and be present with them? Am I making time to be present with myself and with God, even in this moment?
And so for me, and I've really been trying to, this is a growth area for me. I'm standing to that person who's been through a crappy season. For me, mine was 2018. I'm standing in the best season of my life right now. Like I love life so much. I can't believe after that hard season that I'm in the best season. But my only challenge is to make sure I'm not overloading it. Because then again, I get to that place. For me, what I need to do is I need to make sure I have space, just even between something to breathe.
Yeah.
And not to cram it with social media and scrolling.
Yeah.
But just like that time to be still and notice that like right now today in Sioux Falls, it's gorgeous. Like if you don't realize that it is like the most beautiful day and you're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you're living like a robot without a soul.
Right.
I mean, but there's so many days like this that I don't notice. Like it is gorgeous out, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think just having that bandwidth, because when I have that room, I still work just as hard. So it's not laziness. I still work just as hard, but if I just have that buffer, or if I just start the morning like I did this morning, me and another buddy in town, we've done it twice now. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's a walk and talk. So he's a therapist in town, and we did this about a month and a half ago. Him and I, he's just like, hey, instead of grabbing coffee, do you want to go on a walk? And I'm like, sure. Well, 3 different friends of his saw him, and 3 different friends of mine saw me. And a couple of them said, well, I'd like to hang out with you guys when you go on a walk. And so he's just like, how about we just like invite other people to go on a walk with us? And I'm like, that's the weirdest thing ever, but I think it's fantastic. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so like this morning we did it again, and we walked all over on this beautiful morning. You couldn't have picked it, and it just makes you feel human. And so when I have, back to that question, like the burnout, if I have some room, again, and not laziness, I'm like, the laziness, like for me is like, ugh, that's just how I'm wired.
Right.
But just having space, then I feel human.
Yeah.
And I feel I got a soul inside me. And then I start treating other people like humans, like they got a soul inside of them. And I can tell, love each other like as yourself, it's like, well, I can't love others like myself if I treat myself like crap.
Right.
Or I view myself like crap. But gosh, when I know that I'm human, it just comes easier for me.
Yeah.
Like I just have more grace, and I'm like, man, I know what it's like to have a crappy day. I bet he is having a crappy day. And so that's long answer long.
I've been just thinking this whole idea of autopilot has been really shaping me these past like few months. I mean, how much of my life is on autopilot and non-intentional?
Yeah.
And it's like those same days you could have the same amount of things going on, or you could have, the same calendar, but it's autopilot or intentional through that. And it's work to be intentional.
Yes.
You're in good company, man. Tim and I walk and talk all the time. That's how our relationship really got. But we like get it. Do you guys sweat when you walk? Because we might like compete and just see who can walk a little harder. Okay, I love everything you're saying, and I relate so much. The burnout, all of it, the like fill my calendar stuff. I love the idea of like you are what you practice. So we can practice either like being miserable every day and be 60 and hate people, or practice loving people every day and be 60 and still find like curiosity and joy in life. Yeah. I'm wondering what the switch was for you in that dark season.
Great question.
To go from, because I had a really similar season in 17 and 18, and there were a few moments in my life when I can pinpoint and say, oh, that small thing or that thing like really flipped a switch. And for me, it was really like weird things that weren't like life shattering, but it did make a change. What was a change for you that got you back onto opening yourself up to loving people again?
Oof, maybe 2
And sorry, I don't want to jump in, but does it have anything to do with the moment that you became really bald? Because I feel like when you're closer to Jesus, because that's kind of what he did.
I mean,
the moment I actually became really bald, this is another thing I tell men that I see. Any receding hairline, I'm like, one of the best decisions you'll ever make, buddy.
Just go for it.
Just the skull blade.
Down the
Do the skull blade.
Just go down as far as you can.
I'm holding out till I can grow a beard.
What's this?
I don't want to go bald before I grow a beard, I just
you.
feel like you need one or the other.
You do need one or the other. No, for me, it's kind of 2 different things. Through my dark time, one of the things that got highlighted inside of me was the people pleaser. And I mentioned elementary school, whatever. Well, we moved in 6th grade to a new town, and I went from being the biggest loser in my class to having the cutest girl in the new town call me in this new town. And I thought it was a joke. Like I thought it was a setup, and it wasn't. And so then like from then on, never struggled at all. But I struggled my whole life with being a people pleaser.
Huh.
You know, like just those hidden lies that you have inside you, not to get all therapist and whatever, but
What were the lies?
if people really get to know you, they'll leave you.
Okay.
Like they'll
Right.
find out the nerd that you were before this new change and before you went to college. They'll find out the true story and they'll be done. Like you're not that special. They might like you at first, but if they get to know you, they're not going to.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a terrible way to be a pastor because, I was just people pleasing, but you look back, that's not love.
Right.
Like
Yes.
you
Right.
don't love that's not love. That's like, if I do enough, will you love me?
Right.
Like it's kind of like this backwards manipulation.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, so I that was one of the huge things of like, no, love is like, regardless of how they feel about you. You know, before that hard season, I can't think of anybody that would have said like, even thought hard things, bad things about me. And so like, I just really began to like, no, like love, like has no strings attached, even though your love has not looked like any strings attached, you still are doing this in hopes that they'll like you. So I think that was a huge shift for me. And also like another huge shift for me was just like, you know, as a leader, as a boss, like I didn't do a great job of caring for my team, the staff that worked for me. And I was never like this hard, angry boss ever. That's the opposite of me,
right.
people pleaser. But I ran hard. And so I think just even like acknowledging that, like, I'm surprised I'm even saying this, but like, I just really like, no, like your team has to know you care about them, Adam, instead of just like
pleasing
running
them.
Like, and so like, that was a huge shift. The other thing that for me was just rhythms, like, which I feel like is like a hot word right now, is like have healthy rhythms, but as a recovering workaholic, that's a growth area for me. So I just, as far as like having some space in my schedule and starting off the day of just being still with God, be still. Like I sit outside my front of my house and I watch the birds and feel the breeze as I'm, reading through the book of Mark. Or I think just having those healthy things to start off the day, reminding myself I'm human. Because when I skip that and immediately jump into my day, I go into robot mode.
Yeah.
And again, that like it's just like, no, that you're not going to do the day very well like this. And then it's hard to get out because it's like, well, I got another meeting. But when I start out the day, not just on Sunday morning and it sets me up, like for me, I'm one of those people, the moment I'm not walking with Jesus, it's like, it's evident. It's not like evident 3 weeks from now. It's evident as fast as like, if I unplugged that light right there, it would turn off and you'd be like, man, that light was just working 5 seconds ago. I don't know why it's not working. Well, if you plug it in, like it probably will work. So you plug it back in and 10 minutes later, someone trips and unplugs it. I don't know what's wrong with that thing. It won't work. Well, I bet if you plug it, like that is my soul. Like in the most non-pastorish way, the moment I'm not walking with Jesus, it's as evident as like unplugging me. It's like, man, this thing was working. My soul was working 5 seconds ago. Like, I don't know why. Well, if you plug it back in, it probably will work. It's just, oh gosh, thank God the light still works.
So what's that mean to plug that in? And are you just seeing that? Because for me, I feel that internally. I don't know if other people see that maybe but what's that look like to plug in? And yeah, go for it.
Yeah, like there's the typical like read your Bible,
Right.
pray, like so. That's part of it, but for me, it's just like really that Brother Lawrence practice in the presence of God, like just like throughout the day, like hey God, like would you just help? Like I'm just worried about this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like it's not like this, like pray, like close the eyes and all this. It's just like, hey, I could really use like, Lord, help me to come into this next meeting. I know this is gonna be a hard conversation. Like I think just and also just acknowledge like it is just beautiful out today. Like that's just I think it's just that pace of life that's sustainable, and it's not just me trying to do it. It's really just this acknowledgement of God throughout. And
I love it. Yeah.
you know, even in those conversations where you're just like, I just want to, like, this is so annoying. It's like, God, would you just help me to understand? Like, they might be going through some things, and like, it's just that kind of throughout the day, and the most I don't even know how to explain.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The word I keeps coming to mind for me is like awareness. Like it seems like you're able to become self-aware at some point and just figure out, hey, this is what I'm doing. That's a tough road.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's a big one, right? We've almost have to be self-aware before we can be aware of other people, of God, of any of those things. So I'm curious how you figured that out. And then the other things just seem like you're just opening yourself up to be aware of where God is and where he's moving. And then you're able to see God and other people and meet him there. Tell me how you became self-aware.
Or becoming, how you're becoming self-aware.
I honestly, that's maybe it. Like, self-awareness is huge. I think that season brought it up to me. And really just put it in my face of this, like, hey, yeah, this is a crappy situation, Adam, but you're not totally innocent. Like, how you've ran for the last decade is caught up with you. And what's it like to be on the other side of you? And even though you're not this angry boss, are you an anxious boss? Because people feel that. You know, what is your motivation? And so I think the self-awareness, whether you're a leader, whoever you are, it's the greatest gift that you can give to your coworkers, your spouse, your kids. I mean, like, I think when we acknowledge it, it's just like, oh, he sees it. Okay. I can have grace with that person.
Totally.
It's the person who doesn't see it and doesn't acknowledge it, and it isn't working on it. I mean, a buddy of mine, if they're self-aware and they're working on it, I got all the grace in the world.
Right.
You know, and people are, it's so bizarre. People are drawn to that person.
Totally.
The person who's still broken, like the person who's still very broken. If they're self-aware, people are like, I'm in her corner. I'm in his corner. Like, I'm with them. Yeah. But they're kind of, totally. But he's working on it. She's like, you know, like, there's just, so I think the awareness part is huge, of just myself. And also what you said of God, of just being aware of where God's at work and where he's at in my life and in my day is huge. And those two things together are critical. But I think also giving permission to people to tell you, like close friends and your spouse and just whoever, for them to tell you. And also, they've maybe been trying to tell you for 10 years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
it's like, I've been trying to tell you, you just haven't listened. And so for me, that, like, really, that was, I think that's what I felt like God was telling me was, hey, Adam, whether I caused this or not, this situation, I've been trying to get your attention with this people pleaser thing since you were a little kid. And now we're going to deal with it. Like, I like, now you have to. I mean, you have no options. And so I think that was just a huge part of it. But that awareness piece is so critically important.
It makes me think of we're talking to Bob Goff, and one of his things that he would always do is say, what's it like to live on the other side of me? Just like what you said. And that line is, I mean, I never really thought about it as like a recipe for self-awareness. It really is just like a great practice or rhythm to put into play, is like, what's it like on the other side of me? You know, no judgment, no, like, I'm terrible. It's just, I'm just being curious about that. And then I love the idea of asking, but that can get a little dangerous too, because certain people have been trying to say that. Like, my wife's probably trying to say things for the past 10 years subtly. And I'm like, no, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then she'll say something like, no, I'm not. You're an idiot. You're dumb.
You got to come in.
You're ugly.
Open everything. Whatever.
It's so that, I mean, that is probably the basis of self-awareness is coming with humility, a right view of oneself, which is beautiful and tainted. So good.
So, something else too, and this is so, I can't even fully explain this. So Enneagram, I am a 3 achiever, climb a hill, reach a goal type of person. So that is in my wiring. And yet since that time, I've hit a wall, like a ceiling, where it's it's almost so strong. It's physically there. It's in a way that I can't even explain. Like, hey, like I'll reach that breaking point, and it has to come from God or be God. Cause I'll hit this like wall. Like, you can't do anything more. You need to cancel the next appointments. You need to whatever. And at first when it would happen, I would get angry. Cause it's like, no, I need to do this.
I can do this.
That. And I still got 4 things. And so I would be in a room by myself getting angry. And God was like, that's awesome. You're not going to. I would just be like, and I didn't even I don't even know what is stopping me, but it was so, and now I'm beginning to realize that is the kindest thing that could possibly be done for somebody like me.
Right.
Of just like, again, it's so hard. I can't even explain it. Because I am a get the ball to the end zone type of person. Yeah. And it's like, no, you telling me that I can't is just going to make me dig my heels even more.
Watch this.
It's like, but it's just there. And I don't know what that looks like for whoever's like in different people's lives. But that for me, again, at first it was such a frustration, but now I see it as the greatest gift.
Yeah. I'm a 3 as well. And sounds like we've got really similar stories.
Both douchebags?
Yeah.
What I meant, I said Darush. Darush is a new derivative.
It's Bulgarian.
Yes.
I met a Bulgarian guy this week.
Okay.
That's why they came out?
Yeah. So it sounds like we're kind of on similar paths too. This year, I've decided, and this is probably my 3 coming out in a weird sideways way. So I've decided, well, I'm not going to create my own adventure this year, which would typically, because I'm a musician, it's like go out and make tours and make sure I've got a full calendar and I'm just killing it and making money and all these things. So I said, okay, God, I am going to do 1 weekend a month, and I'm not going to try to do 1 weekend a month. Like, let's see if you can provide one. And it has been a tough season, but every month, I mean, my calendar is almost done now for this year. And there was a stretch of about 8 weeks between February and March where my 1 weekend a month was like the first weekend and then the last weekend of those 2 months. And I was about week 5, I was like, I'm a worthless human being. What am I doing? But it's been a really interesting exercise over the course of time. And I'm sure my wife has some ideas about how interesting it is too, because of especially that little piece of time. But it's an interesting exercise of faith. Like, God, will you provide if I don't create my own way? And that's one thing. And also, can I create space and can I make this margin? And then what can I fill it with? And what kind of life-giving things can I fill it with? And so, it's been interesting to say the least. But that's not everybody's story, but I can relate to kind of where you are for sure.
Yeah, one of the a thought that came to mind. So I often in the past have worked it where I will try to make a connection happen.
Right.
Or I'm like, gosh, if I could just get to know that person, then that could possibly happen, and that could possibly happen. And a shift that took place in me is and so oftentimes I wouldn't be able to make it happen. Like, I would actually get myself into a room.
Right.
And every moment that I was in that room, in quotes, I was miserable because it felt like I needed to keep performing for the person. I needed to keep dancing to make them feel impressed.
Yeah.
And it was just gross.
Yep.
I'm like, I sold my soul to get in this room. I need to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And something shifted where I'm just like, why do I keep doing that to myself? I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something I've noticed though is when God or whoever opens the door for you, because you weren't singing and dancing to get yourself into the room.
Right.
When you're in the room, you can just be you, Adam.
Yeah.
Because they actually wanted you. They didn't want some crap version of you.
Yeah.
They didn't want you selling your soul or spinning plates or whatever. They just picked you.
Yeah.
And so, and that's hard for someone wired like us. And yet it's just like, man, and there's so much peace in this room.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much joy. And there's this person I never thought I would ever have be in the same room with, and I'd have no pressure on me.
You could be aware of other people. I mean, that's when you're seeing, that's when you're seeing a kid in that moment. That's when you're seeing or wanting to have seen that the CEO is you're actually able to. There's enough space in your heart that you're putting that into the rhythm of your life to see other people. Just that intentionality is so good, man. I love that.
I think we're rethinking stillness with people. That's what it sounds like. We're reintroducing the value of being still with people, not in maybe a physical, non-moving way, but in the chaos and the whirlwind of your life. I'm pausing. You have to sell books, but we're going to pause for a second, which is what Jesus practiced, stillness with people. But when you do that, it triggers almost the insecurity of what if I'm not something, right? So if I practice stillness with people, what if I'm lazy? What if I'm not performing then? Right. What if I'm not someone who, is a creative because now I'm not creating? So there's like an interesting point of when I'm still with people, I'm inviting them to also value being present, but I'm also surrendering my biggest fear of what if I'm this other thing? And if I'm still enough, it's going to be exposed. But really there's like a beauty of like, we are both so fully present that it doesn't really matter what we're producing right now. Like this has as much value as the 7 meetings I had this morning. So it's almost a rethinking of like, how are we still with people? That's not a 30-minute meditation. And if it is, that's awesome. But the reality is like everyone's in such a different place that can we be still from dancing, performing, gaining, creating to where we acknowledge I'm just me right now. You're just you right now, wherever that is. Even if this conversation is not my favorite, I'm practicing being still because I want you to value it as much as I think God values it.
It makes me think again, like you've got to be able to be still with yourself. And it reminds me of like when Jesus said, like, I've come so that my joy might be your joy. Like the most joy I've ever found in my life. And you just said this a second ago. It's like in those moments when you're still with yourself and you're present to other people and you trust God for those things, like all the other crap kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And that's where like satisfaction and joy and happiness
wholeness
and all of those things, blessing come. And then, well, we can get into reciprocalness of it. Like you were talking about love. It's like, well, I'm loving this person and it feels like a gift, but actually I'm getting it. And it's like, oh, wow, the whole point is this reciprocal communal nature of like everything.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Jesus's whole point.
Yeah. To get to that though, it's so crazy because you can have it in yourself, but then to have another person in that is, it's so foreign right now. Like, because of just even myself, it's so foreign for it to happen. I read recently, I'm rereading all my seminary books. And I've been reading through all of Henry Nouwen's stuff recently again, which is just incredible. But he talked about a dear friend of his. And he said, we met, we said hello. And for 40 minutes, we sat in stillness together unintentionally. And I felt uncomfortable just even reading it. I'm just like, what does this look like? But he just said, I think he used the word how intimate it was just with his friendship. And I thought, what a powerful, I can do that with my wife. Like we can be totally quiet and yet connected. The only other person that and my kids as well, I can do that of just being like with my daughter. I mean, she's still at the place where she'll let me put my hand on top of hers. Yeah. And my dad is the other person that comes to mind. I can be in the presence with my dad and we don't have to say a word and still feel intimately connected. And yet that's such a unique foreign thing. And I'm like, we need more of those relationships where it's just like, and maybe you're watching a game together or you're doing like at a concert together, but you don't have to even speak. And there's just this holy connection of just being still. And I found at first I was uncomfortable reading it, but when I got close to the end of kind of that little story in the book, I found myself longing for it. Yeah. I'm like, man, I long for more of these relationships where there's no performing. Like we're not even talking to each other. Right. And yet it's such a foreign thing.
Love that. I love that. There's so much good in this. Thank you so much, Adam, for being on this with us.
Yeah, this is honestly probably one of the most candid conversation podcasts I've ever been on.
That's our vibe, baby. Let's go.
This is something special.
And you have a podcast called The Conversation, is that correct?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've had it for a few years now, and it's been just a fun journey. The reason I continue to do it, hopefully it encourages somebody else, but it's given me an excuse just to connect with random people here in Sioux Falls. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of people coming through Sioux Falls, so it's fun to connect with people, authors, musicians. But even here locally, I'm doing a series coming up where I'm just interviewing friends of mine here in Sioux Falls that have no platform or following, and yet have beautiful stories.
Did we play Sioux Falls the other day?
I felt that I texted him saying, "Hey, I think we're near you."
Yeah,
I think we did.
I feel like we were close. Yeah,
and it hurt my feelings a little bit
that he didn't come.
He was like, I've got other things to do and to perform.
No, I was so sad that I missed it.
No, it doesn't hurt. Not that bad. Okay, bro, we've got 10,000 thoughts real quick. This is speed round. Do the right thing. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Do you know a Bulgarian?
I do not know a Bulgarian.
I don't either. I don't know the last time I talked to one.
Two now.
You know two now.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
1-0 right now.
Yeah.
It's a competition. The threes head to head. Let's go.
I mean, I was just thinking about it. That was just such a random, or a Bulgarian. Well, I just met a Bulgarian the other day.
He's just sharing life with us. I like that.
Let's go.
How about you not talk?
Okay.
And we'll just sit and not talk. Actually, we've done that many times. Because on the road, you just, okay, I'm going to shut up. Okay, this is 10,000 thoughts. Okay, last place you visited.
Last place I visited, Bismarck, North Dakota, which is such a weird thing. That's where I was last week.
Oh,
wow.
Does that even count?
I don't even think it counts. A lot of Bulgarians.
Bismarck is so cold. I mean, it's cold in South Dakota.
Yeah.
But it is brutal in Bismarck. But away from that, gosh, it's actually a really legit town.
Right.
I'm an old house guy. It's got a really neat old house district, and downtown's got a sweet coffee shop, brewery, all this kind of stuff going on.
Gosh, thank you. Something you're bad at.
Oh gosh, everything. I wish I was. I'm bad at construction type stuff, like building stuff, and I wish I wasn't.
But do you have like an inflated sense of ego around it or confidence? Because I am too, but I'll walk through like a furniture store with my wife and be like, I could build that table. No problem.
Oh, man.
The only thing I've ever built was our kitchen table. We have it at our guest house right now, so it's still in existence, but that's the only thing. And I might have had help from a friend who was actually designing it. So
there you go.
Gosh, you didn't find your match. Because Chris was like, yeah, I think I could totally build that. Oh, see that couch she's on right now? I could totally do that.
Seamstress, no worries.
The best thing, sorry, really quick, when we're on the road or anywhere with people, Chris will see something like a business. He's like, I wonder if I could get into that.
Yeah.
I think I could do that business. Mm-hmm. And then he starts asking people all these questions about how to like start.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that is 100% me.
I got the P&L figured out in about 15 minutes. Yeah.
We were talking to a guy. We were getting driven somewhere on the road.
Yeah.
And he
delivered puppies.
He delivers puppies.
Yeah.
And Chris is in the back going, well, I wonder how much do you get per dog?
Like, how much does it cost? Like, how long do you have to keep these dogs? How much a day does it cost to feed them? You know.
Okay. You at the age of 21.
What's the question with me at the age of 21?
I believe I just gave it to you. You at the age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
Me at the age of 21. I was getting my master's degree at the time. No, I was going into my last year of school of college. I was getting my business degree at Augustana College. Was dating my wife, who would become my wife. Had no idea I was going to be a pastor, but still didn't want to be a pastor.
Right. How far is too far? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong question. I've got a note for my kids.
I probably push that to. For me, I always have to ask that question in like meeting a random stranger, and it's like, can I invite them into my home? Can I invite them to supper? I should probably talk to my introverted wife before I do that.
So good. Sorry, I was just on a high school youth trip, and so that question's on my mind. Okay, happy place.
My happy place is my chair right out in front of my house, eating peanuts, feeding my squirrel named Patrick.
Good old Patty.
So much
Patty.
there. Favorite TV character.
Favorite TV character, the mom on the Goldbergs.
My friend is on that show.
Oh, she
Name
is
drop.
my favorite
Plot
ever.
twist, the mom.
Yeah.
Not the mom.
Okay, bad habit.
Bad habit. Oh my goodness. Chewing my nails and saying yes when I know I should probably say no.
Strong. Pet peeve.
Pet peeve. People celebrating the downfall of other people.
Ooh.
Ooh, gosh, that could be a
I like
whole
that one.
podcast.
I know. I was like, okay, we'll write that right after this.
Adam, thanks so much for being on this with us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks to the three of you, and genuinely and thoroughly enjoyed this.
Good. Well,
Skull
thanks, dude.
Razor. Is that what?
Skull Blade.
Skull Blade.
Skull Blade.
Gosh. Oh,
Skull
gosh.
Blade
What
2000.
was it? Was it Skull Razor?
I don't remember.
Instead of like being paid for it.
A skull shaver. We need to get you need to make them a sponsor.
Skull Blade.
Yeah, we got the wrong.
Skull Blade. 2000. Okay.
22.
Well, next time we're in Sioux Falls, ignore us again. See you
That's
later.
perfect.
Good to see you, man.
Thank
Guys,
you.
Thank you so much.
One thing I really loved about our conversation with Adam Weber today was just his ability to be self-aware. I think a lot of his ability to be able to love people and meet people where they were, and then kind of do most of the things that he talked about in the podcast was because he was able to come to a place and just acknowledge himself in some of these places that he was lacking or trying to perform or doing too much, honestly. And I think a lot of us can find value in taking a step back and saying, hey, who am I? And like, how am I to be around? Like, how do other people perceive me? I think you said that in the podcast as well. It's such an awesome and incredible, valuable tool that we have. If we can just take a step back, be a little self-aware, it gives us opportunity to do a lot of things in life.
Yeah, when he asked himself, what's it look like to live on the other side of me?
That's right. Yeah.
That is such a profound comment. If we were all able to ask that question, what's it look like to live on the other side of me, whether it's people that you work with or your family, my kids, my wife, coworkers, you guys.
Yeah, in this conversation, I think Adam Weber invites us to rethink stillness with people and kind of invite ourselves and others to value being present in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the crazy, busy world we live in, or a tragedy, to take a moment to just kind of breathe with other people. And maybe that's what we can walk into moving forward after this conversation.
Is just being
Still with people, valuing it by pausing and seeing who's in front of you and who's asking for maybe your attention in that moment.
Yeah.